Boom.
Okay. Hey, what's up, everybody? How you doing? It's J Kev here with Leif Taylor, having our regular weekly conversation about all things health, wealth, relationships, happiness, and everything in between. Just talking about ways of just leveling up and maybe even cultivating some things in your life that'll help you along the way in your journey. So, whatever pebbles or nuggets of inspiration that helps you to aspire in your life, feel free to take it and apply it to your life. And we take all kinds of donations if you got that too. So we hope that the return on your investment is worth your while. Hey, Leif, today we're going to be having a conversation talking about resilience and
Yep.
being mentally tough in today's world. And, you know, a number of things have gotten me thinking about this. Is number one, today is 11/11, and it's a celebration of the veteran out there. It's a celebration of all those who have placed their life on the line in some way, shape, or form for the country. So with that, we say salute and we give you appreciation, and we're grateful and thankful for that, because everybody doesn't do that, whether it's voluntary or involuntary. You know, we definitely appreciate all those who have done that. So in thinking about that, Leif, it got me contemplating, what does it mean to be a good soldier? What are some things that, you know, we look for in our soldiers, in our warrior class, so to speak? You know, since the beginning of time, you know, we've had different classes and different sections and different types of people. And one of those areas, one of those classes, one of those segments is the warrior class, those people who have no problem with laying hands on you and giving you justice, you know, giving you whatever you need in order to stand down and step back. So what are some things that we look for? And one of the things that came to mind and thinking about that is we look for in a soldier someone who has grit, someone who is mentally tough, someone who is resilient, able to adapt and move forward with whatever mission he or her has set before them. And, you know, I was just thinking about that and how we can apply it to everyday life and how important it is to cultivate resilience or mental toughness in today's world, where it seems like we are surrounded, we are saturated with so many things that seeks to stand in our way and seeks to wear us down until we acquiesce or until we give in to whatever agenda somebody has set for us, whatever path or narrative somebody has set for us to take for whatever reason. So, you know, just thinking about that, Leif, it's Veterans Day, thinking about soldiers. And one of the things we look for in soldiers is that they be mentally tough and mentally strong. And thinking about how can I, you know, take that and incorporate that into my life. And then also another point that I was thinking about with relation to that, Leif, is thinking about my sons and how can I take that and cultivate that and build that up in them, just knowing, you know, how important it is that just knowing how important it is that they have that quality in them. So, you know, we're going to talk about some ways in which you can cultivate resilience and mental toughness in our life. So just thinking about my sons, thinking about Veterans Day, thinking about soldiers, thinking about, you know, a number of things, especially in today's world, how important that is. And the last thing, Leif, that's got me on that direction is I started reading and almost finishing up on a book called The Practice of Groundedness
Okay.
by Brad Stowberry. And he just talks about, you know, how to stay grounded and how to stay connected in a world where it seems like things are going more superficial. And in saying that, what's coming to mind is the recent explosion of everybody's attention on the metaverse and
Oh,
how
yeah.
we're going into a digital age and how we're losing fast the connection that we have with the tangible real world, I guess you could say, and how important it is that we stay grounded in the real world. So just simply to define groundedness is internal strength and self-confidence that sustains you through ups and downs. It is a deep reservoir of integrity and fortitude of wholeness, out of which lasting performance, well-being, and fulfillment emerges. And that's just a quick summation of what the book is about and how important that is in today's world. So what say you, Leif? We're going to talk about some ways of cultivating that.
Yeah. So you said quite a bit, and so just to backtrack on one of the aspects of what you were talking about is the cultivation part, right? How do you
Yeah.
cultivate resilience? You talked about how to be grounded, and so I'll talk about the resilience part, and then the grounded one, I guess we can tackle a little later. So in terms of the resilience, like like as you mentioned, it's Veterans Day. Shout out to all the veterans. Salute to those that have sacrificed their lives for any cause. To be honest, well, not any cause, but you know what I'm saying. That sacrifice their lives. So salute to them. But you can use the military as a basis of how to start cultivating those things, right? Military they cultivate you on mentally because you still have to take classes. You have to go through simulations, those kinds of things, right? You got to go through war simulations. You got to go through training, fighting simulations. And they also train you physically to make sure that your body is ready for the mental aspect because a lot of people try to disconnect the two, right? And so you can't disconnect the two. It's just like vitamins in your body. It's not enough to take one vitamin. You have to treat the whole body. And so when you want to form resilience, you have to think about the physical. How are you basically taking care of yourself physically? So
and
that
and they're so adamant about that. If you have any quote imperfections, you don't get in. So
yeah,
that's how important the
that's
physical
just the
aspect is.
start. Yeah, and that's not even to say that you'll finish. Like we're talking about boot camp. We're not even talking about actually being enlisted, full service. You got to get past boot camp. And so part of boot camp is literally that. I myself am not a veteran. Actually, I think I've told this story before, but I was actually going to join the military the day of the O.J. Simpson chase. Uh,
Wow, really?
yeah, literally, it was on TV. The O.J. Simpson, the Bronco down the highway, it was on the TV the night before I was to get sworn in. The only thing that
Wow.
stopped me from being in the military was I was too young. I couldn't sign paperwork.
How, how much
Yeah,
was like 16?
I was 17. Yeah, I was too young to sign paperwork because you can't legally sign paperwork unless you're 18, and I was in a different state, so I didn't have anybody to sign for me. So anyway, that's a sad story. But what I was going with is like, so my roommate when I was at Moorhead University, Morehead State University. He was a military guy. I lived actually the floor. I lived in an honors dorm my last year at Morehead, and the guys in the corner in which I lived, including my roommate, they were all like active military college students, and so we used to talk about this stuff all the time. But getting back to the point is the mental toughness, the physical toughness. Doing your PTO, making sure you're training on a regular basis, making sure that you're up for the challenge. Again, it's not just enough to be up for the challenge mentally, but you have to be physically, and also indoctrination, right? And indoctrination is a huge part of it. And what I mean by that, in terms of how it relates to us on a daily basis, I was actually listening to somebody before we even got on, and he was talking about, we talk about it almost every broadcast, is that the things that you tell yourself, make sure that they're for your good, right? You have
Hmm.
to indoctrinate yourself to believe that you can accomplish whatever's before you. You have to indoctrinate yourself to believe that you are worth the challenge that's being presented, that
That
you
is
can
possible.
yeah, that you can overcome, that it is possible, that you have the faith that you can be, as my man David Goggins says, the hardest person on the planet. I'll just put it that way,
Mhm.
right? And so you have to cultivate that in yourself, and that's through repetitious, things, and being hyper aware of the self talk that you give yourself, right? If you're a person that's always doubting yourself or just saying words that lead to your detriment, you have to be very careful of that because you'll fulfill those words subconsciously, right? It's like, oh well, man, I'm this kind of person. I can't do that. I'm no good at this, and those kinds of things constantly being repeated from your own mouth basically lower your resilience in so many
Yeah.
ways. And so
Yeah.
you have to be hyper aware of that and make sure you build up that resilience through yourself, whether it be through affirmations, whether it be through some type of protocol in mind.
Look,
Or go ahead, you're going to say something.
looking at all your inputs and looking at what you
Yeah.
consume on a regular basis. That was one thing that, in the past that I had to really be adamant about when it came to monitoring and managing and cultivating my self-talk. At one earlier in my days when I didn't cultivate my self-talk with intention, I can remember the days where I was having those inner conversations where it's like, man, let's go ahead and quit, give up, man, just
Yep.
stop. This ain't worth it, type of deal. To where when I finally got to the point of realizing how important it is, that I got all the way down at one point to like tossing out even music and looking at the books and looking
Yep.
at the people that I was around, and paying attention to their conversation and words. And after you do it with intention for a while, like putting yourself through some type of boot camp, then it becomes easier over time to kind of when you have those habits and those things in place to keep that stuff at bay. But you
Yep.
do have to go through a boot camp indoctrination process in the beginning and really be intentional about the inputs that you allow into your life. That was so important on my health journey when I decided to turn things around. That with intention, I would leave on like certain inspirational stations and
Yep.
broadcast it throughout the house and broadcast it in the car 24/7, ad nauseum, to the point where when my sons would ride with me when they were little, I would take them to school, to where they were singing the songs, and
Yeah.
they get in the car and they're like,
Yeah, I know. That's why I started laughing. Like, here go
yeah,
that again.
yeah, why are you listening to this? But you will be amazed and you'll be surprised at how heavy of a bearing that has on your behavior.
Yeah.
Talking about input and inner talk, the inner
Yeah,
dialogue.
it actually made me think about, in scripture, the new birth, you must be born again, right?
Yeah.
And the reason that I thought about it from that perspective, because when you join the military, the first thing that they do is strip you of who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
strip you of your identity and give you a new one, right? They replace your old identity with the new one, a new, improved, who you need to be kind of thing in order to survive in that world that they're putting you in, right? And so we must do the same thing as well. Is it's like, okay, I forget who it was. I posted the quote on my feed a few days ago, but it's like the behaviors that you've had in the past are made you who you are now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to be somebody different, if you want to be somebody better, then you need to change those behaviors or you're going to be exactly where you are, period, right? And so you must strip yourself of those things that are a hindrance to you. And again, it takes a lot of reflection. It takes a lot of outside observation. And so like when you go to the middle, you have drill sergeants, you have a variety of instructors, not just drill sergeants. There's a variety of people that basically monitor who you are. The people around you monitor your activities and what you're doing. Are you a detriment to the team? If not, if you are, then they're going to correct you to make sure that they don't have to do anything on your behalf, right? And so you get a lot of feedback and reinforcement of the things that you shouldn't be doing in that situation. And sometimes you need the same thing in terms of your normal life. It's like, hey, how do I disrupt my normal day-to-day life to where I can get feedback and I can get training of some sort to get me on the right path? We talked about it last week. You decided like, you know what, I need to get a trainer, right?
Yeah.
To push me to get me beyond, my certain point. I hit up mentors all the time. You're reading books. Books are mentors that we don't necessarily know or they don't know us, but that places us in a mindset to think beyond ourselves. Go ahead. Look like you're ready to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. Books are definitely an easy pathway that you can incorporate any mentor that you'd like, and that's an amazing. I guess I'm trying to avoid the word hack, but
Yeah.
I'll say it anyway. That's an amazing hack where it doesn't cost you a lot of money as far as getting some good information into your life. And you mentioned me having a trainer. Me having a trainer now. This is the second time I've had somebody I would consider a training.
Yep.
In the beginning, a few years ago, I had one, Myron Jackson. I used to work out with him a lot, and I just noticed that how important it is, like you said, to have that outside influence, that outside monitoring that'll help modulate and modify your behavior for your best, your best interest at heart. And that's something that is important when it comes to cultivating the habits and the routines and the things in your life that'll help you be more resilient and help you become grounded wherever you may find yourself. And when I say grounded, I mean having that inner quality about yourself that'll help you, whether things are going good or where things are going bad, that you're able to stay on the path that you've deemed important for you and your life.
Yep.
Got a couple of comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shauna says, I just had a conversation with my girls today about how musical lyrics can affect your behavior. Yeah, music is the language of the heart. I learned many years ago watching what is his name? I think it's Lewis. He had the truth
Yeah, I
behind
know.
hip hop.
Yeah,
Yeah, he had the truth behind hip hop series.
yeah.
And years ago, I watched that. That's something that really opened me up to the power of language, on how it's able to modify and influence your behavior beyond your consciousness, beyond you being aware of it. Music has a way, music and the lyrics in the music has a way of bypassing those guards that you'll have up in your mind as far as keeping things at bay. So music goes right through, it goes right around it and goes straight to your heart, influencing you and moving you. Just like, when a beat comes on, you just can't help it sometimes with tapping your
Yeah.
feet or moving,
It's
or
like, it's like the
sometimes.
thing, like play this for your baby and see what happens. Like get it, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it goes straight to the heart. And when you get somebody's heart, you can influence and affect their direction. That's, everybody knows that when it's sexy time, you put on the Luther Vandross, right? Leif be putting on the Luther, and Shauna be like, he ain't singing to me. No,
I've never been that kind of person, because I'm like, I don't want no dude singing to my woman. What's up with that? That don't make sense to me, but that's just me.
Oh man. So, I guess ain't no Prince or nothing going on over there.
Nah.
But it's talking about the power of music and how it can be used for a force of good, as far as making you resilient or not. Thinking about military, thinking about music, thinking about the drummer, thinking about how music is used in war, in war situations, and the horns, how all that stuff can be used as a force that can be used, to bring out
to mobilize.
Mobilize.
Whole lot of different things.
So music is very powerful.
The next one, you can read the next one as well.
Yep. Shauna says, I had a friend who I would ask periodically to tell me a flaw that they saw in me. I was at times surprised at her answer, but her truthfulness and feedback helped me grow and progress in my life. Yeah, that's asking somebody to give you some constructive criticism is a sign and a level of vulnerability that we all have to cultivate at some point or at some level in our life if we want to get to a different place in life. And that's something, learning how to be vulnerable and can be tough, but it's something that is involved in becoming resilient, being able to take that criticism and incorporate it into your life if you see fit, and So that's something that's a part
Yeah.
of being resilient.
And then also just another part of the resilience conversation and what I'm thinking about, the training in military is, like I said, just the simulations, right? I remember the one book, I forget it every time, by Charles Duhigg. I forget the name of that book every single time. But anyway, it's about habits, and they were talking
Yep.
about the reason why Starbucks was so powerful and effective with its customer service is the fact that they would do simulations with the people that they trained, right? It would literally affect their lives outside of work because of the time that they put in with training, to where, it's like, how do you deal with a hostile person? Well, they actually simulated the scenarios that you would encounter and then helped you get through those. It's the same thing with martial arts. If you go, MMA is real big now. So if you go to like any MMA gym across the country, they're going to be simulating the opponent that you may be facing in the ring, right? They're going to put you through those scenarios. Oh, when you duck here, he usually throws a high kick. So make sure that you have your guard up, right? And so it helps you get resilient in those kind of situations. And it's like, okay, like there was a fight a couple weeks ago, real good fight. And the guy almost got choked out, but he stayed calm to make it through the round. Like
Get
most
through
people
it. Yeah.
said, at one point he was almost out, but he just knew based on his training that he could survive that moment, right? And so sometimes your training has to push you to your limits so that you can get to the point of resilience, and you're not afraid of things that may come, or you're not afraid of scenarios. Because a lot of times the thing that really does us in is fear. It has nothing to do with and it's not to say that the world is not tough or rough or anything like that, but a lot of it is the fear that we have in ourselves, that we don't even allow ourselves to even go up against the adversary, whatever that force is, because we're too busy staying in bed or staying in our house contemplating, and complaining and not doing anything. So you got to make sure that you train, and also know what you're training for. All right, we're talking about resilience. What are you being resilient for? What are you being financially resilient? Are you trying to be physically resilient? Are you trying to be, like you're trying to get a promote? What is it that that you need your resilience for? And it goes back to, we always have, what is your why? Right? What is
Yeah.
your why, and what is the what that you're preparing for? And so if you don't identify those things, then you can be uprooted in any kind of scenario because you're not prepared in any way.
The what is the what is life, and the why is because I want to live. I want to.
Keep breathing.
I mean, I mean that's general. That's really the basis of all our conversations. Is the what is life, and I want to thrive. I want to live in life. I want to enjoy life while passing through. Maurice says, once we understand that coming out the other side of any situation is a sign of strength. Yeah, and something to build on.
Yep.
Yeah, just being, that's the whole point of being resilient. I think is to survive, whatever circumstance or situation you may face or find yourself in, so that you can build on it and use it
Yep.
as a stepping stone to whatever it is you're wanting to go. And in saying that, now I was thinking about how right now, where I work at, we're going through some changes. And I noticed that if you aren't resilient, if you aren't able to adapt, if you aren't able to be flexible, if you aren't able to kind of have some time under tension, then I've seen, yeah, I've seen so many just check out. And in my head, I guess when you've been around for a little bit in life, you learn that things pass, things will change. It just takes, it just takes a while. This too shall pass, as they say.
Yep.
So that's the mindset, that's the mantra, which is one of the things that, being grounded and being resilient, that's one of the things that a lot of people who are really mentally tough have, is having a mantra or something, an ethos that they go by, thinking about David Goggins and stuff. So, yeah. So having a mantra and just being able to just have time under tension is something that's important when it comes to being able get through things, and then being able to build on it on the other side for the better, versus letting that stumbling block, take you out and you just become, you crumble. And I've had plenty of crumbling in life. Like, oh, he's a soft batch cookie. Look at, he got sifted out like wheat. Look at him.
Yeah, just dropping.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How to cultivate it. You talked about simulation and training scenarios. That's very important, and that's one way in which you can cultivate and train resilience into your life. So yeah, just thinking about that. And when you were talking about that, I was thinking about a position I had where I was doing sales, and how they would have us in a room, have us, with 20, whatever, 30 people going through all these scenarios in sales, and you have to learn how to get through that before you actually go into the real world. And I learned the benefit of that. It just made life so much more easier. Talking about crumbling, when I first started that position, it was intimidating to come up to business owners at that time, for me to come up to business owners and people in influential positions in a company or whatever, and have a conversation with them about what I could do for them and stuff like that. And over time, I learned the benefit of the scenario and of what the process they were putting us through, to where I got that confidence, and to where my results showed. So the scenarios helped me, and I got results from that. So yeah.
You got to get your reps in, regardless of anything. You got to get your reps in early, so that you feel in a safe environment, right? And that's the purpose of training. It allows you to fail in a safer environment. And that's not to say that you're going to be perfect out once you get out of training, but you're more equipped to deal with the nuances of like talking about sales, for instance. You're more equipped to deal with the nuances of conversation, right? You're more equipped to present the offer, so to speak. And you have to get past like those because a lot of it is mental barriers, right? You have these mental blocks. You're intimidated, one, just to even sell something, because most people are intimidated by sales, right? That's like it's like public speaking squared, right? Because not only am I talking to you, but I got to get you to buy something. That's the way you approach. That's the way most people approach it. So that's intimidating in and of itself. And so if you don't train for those things, if you don't practice those things, then you're going to just be wiped out mentally before you even open your mouth. You're going to be sweating. Your voice is going to be cracking.
It's just blood in the water.
It's going to be a disaster. And most seasoned business people can see it a mile away. And it's just like,
oh, man.
Yeah, it's like you will sell nothing unless they have pity on you. Like,
you get no sales, son.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, if you want to be in business to any capacity, you have to go through that.
In life, general.
You have to go through that process. You have to go through overcoming your fear of that scenario, that situation, because that's the thing. Like Maurice said, on the other side of it, you come out stronger. And if you don't focus on the other side, then you'll just be focused on the weakness you currently have, right? Because the only way you get stronger is through the adversity, which is the irony of it all. Most people want to wait till something gets perfect, but nothing gets perfect. You just get perfected along the way. And so if you don't realize that very early, then you won't even begin the process of the training. And so that's very, very important. So we got another comment.
Shauna said, it is also wise to watch the company you keep. Your circle can either make you or break you, build you up or tear you down, encourage you to keep progressing or discourage you so you will quit. Yeah, that's funny she said that, because when you were talking, that lines up with that. And it was making me think about the importance of the company that you keep. When you were talking about, I was thinking about in college, I've talked about this before, where there was a before, public speaking. I had an issue with public speaking, and I had this one presentation, and a friend in there, he was like, oh man. So After that one presentation, he took me he took me to the side and he said, I'm gonna work with you and we're gonna get through this. And talk about the company that you keep
Yeah.
and having somebody, a community and somebody that's there for you that will criticize you in love and will not only do that, but help you along the way and help you get better. And he worked with me over, I don't know, a couple of weeks or a month, couple of months or so. And we would do recordings and
Wow.
play it back. And he would tweak this and tweak that to the point, to where I got better at presenting, and to the point that I'm able now to have a live stream conversation without any issues or problems. So just thinking about being resilient and having a community and having friends and people, a tribe, people around you that will help build you up and encourage you. Thinking about military, you're a part of a community, a tribe, people that will criticize you and break you down, but in that process, they do that in hopes of building you up to something better, something stronger, something more resilient than when they got you.
Yeah, and as you were saying it made me think even about myself in terms of like I used to be like real like shy. That's we have two shy guys. I used to be real like afraid to speak openly and talk publicly and all those kinds of things. But then I just got to the point, like we talked about, you got to be born again in a sense.
Yeah,
I just got over myself. Like
yeah,
really, it's just like, okay, you mess up, so what? Who cares? Keep going, right? And then as I embraced that more and more, I got less intimidated by the process of speaking to people or speaking openly or whatever. And so, it just alleviated all the internal jitters because I realized it was all just me anyway. And that's not to say that, that the bigger the venue won't add more pressure or anything like that. But, it just helped me resolve just going through the process of being terrible, right? Just going through the process of messing up in front of people, going through that process over and over again. And then, I started realizing it's like, you know what? It's not that bad because what I realized is that all the uhs and the whatever that I noticed, most people didn't even care about. They just didn't. And it's like, why am I so worried about it? Why do I care this much about these things? And it just helps you start learning your own psychology, which is another part of the training, right? Which is another part of being broken down, is that you understand how to deal with yourself. And so that way when pressure comes on in a variety of ways, even in a family situation, right? Let's take it to the extreme in a dangerous situation where emergencies or like you got to administer first aid care or things like that. If you don't know how to calm yourself down, if you don't know how to think clearly in times of panic and chaos, then your resilience level is going to go to zero. And so you have to work on those things. You have to work on knowing who you are so that you can, like they say, bring it together, get yourself together, right? So that you can just gather yourself and like, okay, let me, Zen, use a common term, a Zen-like attitude toward whatever situation you're in so that you can survive, right? So that you can make it through it. Because if you panic, if you become unnerved, then you could literally lose your life in those kind of situations. So, always, train yourself and think about how do you deal with you? How can you cope in any given situation? And it's not to say that, you're going to 1,000% make it every single time, because obviously there are people that aren't alive today. That's just the
yeah,
reality, right? And so, but you want to give yourself the most optimal outcome as possible. And when it comes to, we're talking about just being resilient, and I'm going to the extremes of it in terms of a life and death situation. So you want to just stay calm, you want to stay focused, you want to keep your wits about you and think clearly, because as I'm talking, it's just making me think about even in terms of getting in an altercation with somebody to where like things start escalating. If you don't use your mind in the right way, you could literally lose your life. I thought about, we had a talk probably 2 years back when the man was arguing with the two guys. They had the shotguns, and he wouldn't back down, and he got killed in front of his wife.
Wow.
Because yeah, the guy kept arguing with the guys because he wasn't thinking clearly. He didn't pull himself together. It was on camera too. They were recording it, and the two guys literally are sitting there with shotguns, and he has nothing, and he's going at them. And I'm like, bro, like you got to think, right? Being resilient in that situation is assessing your environment and realizing, like, hey, this ain't the time for this. You know what? Let me de-escalate. Like seriously, let me de-escalate myself. Let me be aware of my surroundings and let me survive this day. And if there's going to be any retaliation, it'll happen another day when the odds are in your favor better, right?
And thinking about what you were talking about a couple of months ago, uh, at the height of the pandemic, I remember watching a video of an altercation similar to what you're talking about. It was on camera. It was like, I guess somebody caught it on like one of those the cameras that everybody has now, the
Like the
Ring or
phone?
whatever.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah,
Ring,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
doorbells or whatever.
yeah,
There was an altercation between a couple and a guy across the street, and the guy was just coming in, just going at the guy across the street real hard, just cussing him out, arguing with him, just fussing at him, and then his girlfriend jumped in on it and started going at the dude. So the dude goes in the house, comes out with a shotgun, and just shoots the dude. The dude is still talking mouth though. He shoots him
yeah,
one time. He's still talking mouth. She's still talking mouth, and he shoots him like again, and he goes down, and then he shoots the girlfriend, and the dude's like off camera, but apparently he's like dead. But the girl, the girlfriend, she's still talking mouth after he done shot her, like two or three times, and
yeah,
she's still talking mouth. So he goes back. I think he goes back in the house and then comes back out and shoots her again, and then he goes back in the house and then shoots himself. And like
yeah,
yeah, and like you said, it's important that you assess a situation so that you don't get drawn in
yep,
off of emotion. Going back to what we're talking about as far as music and emotions, and that emotions will cause you to react versus respond. And it's important that you learn the art of managing your emotions, because if you don't, they will manage you.
yep,
I was thinking about the incident I had 2 weeks ago. We talked about where I was in downtown Cincinnati, and there was a
yep,
situation
yep,
to where uh, I could feel myself, going into react versus respond. And I know that because I've had simulation, I've had training to where I've been in a ring, I've trained in MMA a little bit, so
yeah,
I know the difference between responding and reacting. And when you're in a tough situation that you don't like to be in, like for me, I hated being under the weight. I don't know if you ever wrestle with somebody, but if
yeah,
you're
yeah. It
wrestling with
sucks.
somebody who's like
it's
50 pounds heavier than you and they're
it
on you,
sucks.
they got your neck.
Yeah, it sucks.
You have to learn how to manage your emotions so that you don't get
Yep.
anxious and react, and you have to learn
If
how
you
to be
panic,
calm in
you're
that
done.
situation.
Yeah, if you panic, you're done. It's a wrap.
Yeah. So it goes back to the importance of just going back to the importance of simulation,
Yep.
training, and putting yourself in an environment, allowing yourself to be in an environment to where you can train. Like your family is a perfect example. It should be a perfect example of
Yep.
a place, a safe place where you're allowed to fail and go through some different scenarios that'll help you in the real world. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I was
stimulation.
talking to my mother about that very thing today in terms of our children, my wife's and I's children, in terms of just the environment, and it allows them to push the edges, right? Like you said, in
Yeah,
a safe way. And even when you were talking, it made me think about even school. School is supposed to be that environment. That's why I said
yep,
supposed to be that
yep,
environment where you push the edges, like especially post-secondary school. Normal school, it can vary, but
right.
post-secondary
College.
education, Yeah, it's supposed to be geared toward getting you adjusted to the real world, so to
Real
speak.
world.
You
Mhm.
study before you enter the field of expertise and all of these kinds of things, right? Doctors do simulations so that when they do get their PhDs and they go out in the world and operate on people, that they're not surprised, so they get their practice, the
Like,
practicum.
whoa, what's this?
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, man, I don't know what to do with that. So they
I was
keep
a C student. Like, no, I was the A student.
and so like again, figure out what it is you're being resilient for. We're talking about overall, but for your individual life, the key thing is like, what can you get from this conversation? Figure out what it is that you want to be resilient in. What is it that you want to go after? Because resilience is more about, not only being in the environment that you're currently in, but going out and pursuing and engaging in new environments, right? So the simulations are like, what is it that you need to be trained on to do whatever it is you're trying to do? What is
And
it that you need? Go ahead. What'd you say?
when we say resilience, we're talking about toughness is another way to
Yeah.
say it.
What is it that you need to get tough in, right? Is it literacy of whatever industry, right? What is it that you need to get an understanding of? What is it that you need to be like, not so much of a powder puff in? How can you get that? How can you get your reps in with that? Are there classes you can take? Are there people you can be around? Are there groups you can join? Are there, forums that you can talk in? Figure out what it's going to take for you to get above and beyond where you currently sit, because again, it takes a village in a sense, and that village is a loose organization of people at times that can actually push you and challenge you on the things that you're doing. For example, I'll give a real world example. This time last year, no, I'll go a year and a half, right? This time, a year and a half ago, I was trying to focus my skill sets on entering into animation, right? I've been a designer for over 20 years, so design is not an issue for me. But drawing and appeal for the current industry was not a strong suit of mine. It really wasn't. I could draw, but that's only compared to the average person. I wasn't industry ready. And so basically what I did to become resilient and to keep pushing forward, I surrounded myself virtually because of course we weren't COVID and everything. I surrounded myself virtually with people that were embedded in that industry. All I did was eat, sleep, and breathe animation.
And
Period.
it's all documented.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And so I used to just be in that space constantly. I would talk to people about it constantly. I would throw my theories and hypotheses out about how the stuff worked, in terms of the industry as a whole, constantly. And over that time, I would slowly refine myself. I would slowly refine my mind. I would slowly refine my confidence in that space. I've pitched to networks before. I've pitched to Netflix. I've pitched to Disney. I've done all of that. But a year and a half ago, that stuff was so far fetched, right? That stuff was so far away from me that I didn't even know where to start. Like I just jumped in. I just jumped in the deep end of the pool and just started, treading water until I started figuring out how to navigate the space, right? And so for me, the resilience came from being around people that could point me in the right direction. And I put myself in their presence. They weren't coming to me. I basically placed myself in those places where they were. And then I would talk to them. I would ask questions. I would do those things on a regular basis. I still do it. I still talk to people. I still reach out. I still network and I communicate and I involve myself in that so that I can understand and not be surprised when, oh, well, I had this conversation before. So when they present this, I know what to say. I know what to do. I know the kinds of things I should be focused on in this conversation, in this scenario. I know how to get this particular kind of work because I've had these conversations and it's not new. I've been practicing, right? I've been practicing and then I implemented real world to where now when I get the pushback, I can push back myself, right? And so those are the kinds of things that you can do. But again, you have to be pinpoint what it is you want to be resilient in. And of course, those things help you in life as a whole because it's just associative thinking. It's like, you know what? This worked here. And it also can work here. It worked here. It worked here. And so all of those kinds of things help build your resolve. And really, in our world, the biggest things that we have to be resilient against is other people. Like, I mean, of course, there's disease, but most of our disease comes from other people. And most of our conflict comes from other people. So it's relationships, it's interacting with other people, those kinds of things. So just always be aware of that and understand what you want out of this particular life.
Yeah, Shauna says, I was always afraid to be seen. I have a lot of information to give and wanted to help people, but wanted to do so without being seen. Now I no longer have that fear because of letting that fear go. I now take more chances. Yeah, learning how to get over the fear of, like you said, um, public speaking is a big fear for a
People,
lot of people. It was for me,
yeah, likewise, likewise.
understanding how to get through that is definitely something that once you get over it and you get past, like you say, you get past yourself and not focusing on yourself, but focusing on others. That's something that's a way of learning how to get over the fear, because what you have, whatever it is that you have, somebody else, somebody somewhere needs it.
Yeah,
That's the thing about people. If you're a person, somebody somewhere on this planet will
yes,
and can benefit from the knowledge and the understanding and the wisdom that you have and that you can give them. That's right now I'm thinking about testimony, and that's one of the things
yeah,
about telling your story and telling your
real.
testimony about
Powerful.
whatever, is that it's powerful, and it's somebody somewhere can benefit from that, and just learning how to get over self, and like you said, realizing that who cares, having that mindset or that attitude of, you know who cares,
Yeah,
what's the worst that can happen. That was something that I had to learn in sales. It's like, what's the worst that can happen? What, are they gonna punch me in the face because I
yeah,
tried to sell them something? What they gonna
exactly.
do?
Yeah. I literally had that conversation with somebody. I was like, I've been in like literally scenarios where bullets have been flying. And I'm
Hmm.
like, this ain't that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm good.
What's the worst?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I'm
Yeah.
good. And then once you start understanding again, that people are people, because again, like I said, when we think about resilience, a lot of it has to do with interaction with other people to some degree, whether it be violent, whether it be friendly, whether it be relationship, whether it be, elevation or deflation, whatever. It's usually around people. All of our things that we work on and focus on is about our interactions with other people. So why be afraid of doing people things? And what I mean by that is, to err is human, right? And so if you mess up, guess what? People mess up. You understand what it's like to stump your toe. So if I walk in somewhere and I stump my toe, people may laugh, but hey, they be like, man, I know that hurt, right? Because they have been there before as well. And it's the same thing with speaking. The thing that really clicked in my head, I probably mentioned this multiple times, is I remember watching this. It was I want to say he was a neuroscientist, right? He was a neuroscientist, and he was giving a presentation at a college, and he was probably one of the worst speakers I've ever heard. He was
Wow.
terrible. He was like terrible. But it made me realize that public speaking has zero to do with intelligence,
Yeah.
because this guy's a neuroscientist. He's the one teaching everybody else, right? They're there to learn his information and his knowledge. So it made me realize that, okay, if I mess up, it has nothing to do with my intelligence, right? Because some people fear that they're when they mess up, that it's a direct reflection on their intelligence, or who they are, their confidence. And when I saw that, I was like, you know what? If this guy can be as terrible as he is and
Mhm.
be at the place where he is, then I can be. Who cares if I mess up? I got a worse example of somebody that is, by any other measure, is brilliant. And so just little things like that, just seeing things for what they are, as opposed to believing the lies that we build up in our head and tell ourselves around our situations, because most of the time, the reason why people fold and they aren't resilient is because they've told themselves that they should give up. They believe that they couldn't do it. It wasn't that they weren't capable of doing it; they believed that they couldn't, and so that became their truth, and that became their reality, and thus they couldn't. And so, if you learn to train yourself in that kind of way to realize that, hey, like this one man says that if I'm gonna tell myself a lie, I'm gonna give myself the best outcome in this lie. Why am I gonna crap on myself when I'm like, hey, I don't know what's gonna happen anyway, so I might as well believe it's gonna be the best possible outcome ever, and then walk in that, right? And so part of the resilience is again the self conversations that you have internally. Sometimes people speak out loud, whatever it is you talk to yourself about. Make sure that it's building you up and not tearing yourself down, and that will help your resilience in any scenario.
What's the best that can happen?
Period.
That's who said that quote. I seen that quote. I forgot who said that.
I don't know. I know my wife used to say it all the time in the house. I know she didn't invent it, but yeah,
Right.
she said it all the time in the house.
What's the best that can happen? It's good man said, hey Danielle. Danielle says baby Theo has sat for 5 minutes straight to sit,
Give baby Theo a hug for me. He's a cute little dude.
Yeah, speaking of boldness and somebody who is very upfront and confident, that Danielle is definitely one of those people. When she was commenting on Shauna's comments about being afraid to be seen and stuff, and not no longer having that fear of being seen,
Yep.
and then Danielle chimed in and was like, "Yeah, it's right on point." Danielle definitely is somebody that I think exudes confidence and is somebody who is not afraid or not in fear. Oh, that's all right. I thought you was going away, man.
No, I have a super sensitive mouse, and if I accidentally touch it, it'll click to another. My bad. But yeah,
I was gonna have to enact my resilience because it's been a while since I've been solo.
I saw the sweat starting to form. But yeah, just going back to Danielle, when she said that, about my wife, she's like, this was me too. I remember when she was there. I remember when she was at that point, and I remember when she was like, okay, I don't give a crap no more. It's so many words, and I'm gonna just go all out and be me.
Her actions.
And since then, like I've seen her thrive, like seriously. And again, it's like, it's the boldness to be who you were called to be, right? And again, a lot of times it's nobody else in our way but us, period. And when we talk about resilience and those kinds of things, resilience, I guess it starts almost at the point of you believing you can do it, period. Right? It has nothing to do with anybody else. It's believing that you can do it and believing that you are equipped to do it. It made me think about when you were talking earlier about Ty Tribbett, the song Same God Right Now, Same God Back Then. Is that if he did it before, he can do it again, right? And it's like, okay, if I had this small victory here, who's to say that I can't have the victory again here? And now I can build on that. You talked about building on those things earlier, right? Now I can have, because I've had those two victories there, I can have this third victory here. So you slowly start building up your confidence, which slowly starts building up your resilience, because you realize that you can withstand more than you thought you ever could. But you don't know that until you put yourself on the battlefield, so to speak.
Man, when you were talking about other people and how that's an issue, I was thinking about how that has been scaled up with social media. How if you let social media get into your brain, if you let social media kind of infiltrate your mental space, that it can take the wrong turn real quick, and that you have so many other people's perceptions and views and stuff coming into yours. So one of the things when it comes to mental resilience is learning how to keep social media and keep the internet at bay when it comes to your mental space, and making sure that you set boundaries and keep that stuff at bay, because whether we realize it or not, social media has been weaponized against us for a while, but now it's like so out in the open that you it's very thin as far as awareness and things being just plain as day.
Yeah.
So just being aware.
And also just from the standpoint of because I know people that have gone through this to where people have literally tried to ruin their lives, like literally. like to where they
Wow.
can get jobs and things like that, right? And even in those scenarios, because I've talked to these people, like I'm not just this is not a hypothetical. I've talked to those
Right.
people, and the one conclusion that we've come to, and even similar people that have been in that situation that they know is like when you're not, you know, this is going to be me going on my entrepreneurial spiel, so just bear with me for a slight second. But when you're not dependent on other people for your livelihood, then and we're all dependent on other people for our livelihood, and so I'm talking about directly to where somebody
Yep.
directly can say that no, I'm cutting Kevin off kind of thing. When you don't depend on people for, when you're autonomous to an extent, where we all
Yep.
answer somebody to some degree, even Jeff Bezos, right? So when you're autonomous to some extent, those things don't affect you as much. It's not to say that they don't affect you mentally, they don't affect, the outcome, because people lie. There are evil people in this world. There are people that literally have no other agenda than to tear other people down. That's real. However, the more autonomy that you have, the more that you can buffer that, right? So now I don't have to worry about this person giving me a job or this person giving me a handout or so on and so forth, because I'm not dependent on them to live. Part of resilience is like, okay, now that I can't, this is not accessible to me, right? This world is no longer accessible to me in terms of an industry or a job. What can I do? Right? And especially, and this is a message I give to a lot of Black people, because they're like, I can't find a job because people won't hire them. And I'm like, when you can't find a job, you create your own, right? And so when you learn to do things like that, it takes the effects of the blow away, because if you take away my livelihood, then I can't pay bills, I can't eat, I can't do a lot of things. But if you don't give people that power over you, then it's an inconvenience, and it's a terrible inconvenience, but it's not a insurvivable one, if that makes sense. And
Yep.
so and so with all of that said is, definitely be smart on these internet streets, but also think about ways that you can get some autonomy and some power in your life, to
Which will
where
help you be more resilient.
exactly, to where these things won't sink your ship. The old battlefield thing. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
we connected these dots. So make sure that you keep your ship from being sank by some random weirdo on the internet that's gonna lie about you and spread lies and those kinds of things, right? Like you said, you can either be reactive or proactive. And the whole cancel culture thing has been like the buzzword. I don't even know who termed that phrase, but anyway, just live above the cancellation, right? Have other means of livelihood, and it's not always money. It's really not always money. It's not always about money, but
What are
have
some other ways?
some other ways. Again, community,
Yeah.
freedoms, like just again being autonomous in terms of surviving, right? And not having, like I said, any one person being able to put a plug on your life in terms of your lifestyle and those kinds of things. Other ways is, like I said, and there's all different forms of groups of people. There's all different kinds of tribes. You may feel like you're canceled, but it's only in one cultural aspect. Most people probably don't know who you are anyway. Like, really, the majority of people on this earth do not know who you are. The majority of these people on earth do not even know who Dave Chappelle is, even though he's like, big. The majority of people, the billions of people on this earth, don't know who he is. Maybe, a couple 100 million, but then compared to billions, that's nothing. It's like less than 1% of the world's population knows who that guy is, kind of thing, right? And so when you look at it in those terms, and you look at it in terms of, what, if I might not be, I don't know if y'all, this is an old reference, but MC Hammer video, he said, man, you ain't hitting in Compton. It's like, just because you ain't hitting in Compton don't mean that you can't go somewhere else and become a legend, right? And so just be mindful of that. Be mindful that, you don't put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, and that this world is plentiful. There's so many avenues for you to flourish and thrive. So being resilient is also part of that, is seeing the world for what it is and all its possibilities. Abundance is infinite. And if you believe that, then one closed door just opens a billion more, right? And so just keep your mind focused on that part, because again, there's so many things that seem evil in this world that are actually evil, but I'm a firm believer that there's far more good. Period. I just am.
Yeah, yeah. I'm right along there with you. That having that mindset helps you see that and keeps that in focus, which helps you be resilient,
Yeah.
especially going through tough times. You know, all we always go back to. I always think about those extremes of situations.
Yeah.
That's kind of what undergirds a lot of our conversation and some of the things we talk about, because we spend a lot of time thinking about those extremes and what, many people may be going through. So from that vantage point, it's like, man, life is good.
Yeah, it's great.
That
Life is
helps you
great.
get through those. Yeah, it helps you get through those tough times. Like, it's really not that bad for a lot of us. So enjoy your life where you may find yourself.
Yep.
If you're able to listen to us for about an hour, then you living all right.
Oh yeah, your life is definitely good, especially if
Yeah.
you chose to listen to us.
So in closing, Leif, just wanted to have a conversation, our weekly conversation, talking about health, wealth, relationships, happiness, everything else in between. We
Yep.
didn't go off the beaten path today that much, so this content is evergreen.
Yep. Yep.
Just talking about being resilient, mental toughness. That rhymes, didn't it? A little earlier. But anyway, just talk about, being mental tough and how to cultivate that and why it's important in today's world. Um, Life's going to throw a lot of things at you. You're going to go through a lot of ups and downs, and it's important to stay grounded, to cultivate groundedness so that you can remain resilient no matter whatever you're going through in life, thriving or just surviving.
Yep.
So through physical fitness, working out, good food, good community, cultivating the community, cultivating that abundance mindset, training, building in some good habits. All these are simple yet effective ways that can help you thrive through life and not just survive through life. So that's all we got, Leif.
So
Definitely appreciate you. Enjoy you. Hit like, share, leave a comment, and let us know what you think out there. Hopefully your time invested in us is worth your while and you get some kind of return. So with that, that's all we got.
yep. Two shy guys and a mic signing out.
Peace
Peace.
out.